Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on deployment for both backend and frontend. So let's just get started. So I created a very simple backend app in this folder here. If I just run /run -- GUI, uh, I think I need to move from package. I might need to move from package. Okay, nice. I do not. Then I can go to localhost 4567, random, and then put a minimum number and a maximum number and get a random number between them. So if I do like, you know, much larger number, since the number should be getting bigger as the expectation increases for the uniform distribution. And so that's just this deploy to over here. Very simple app. Just have a main class and a generate number GUI handler, which just says takes in a min, takes in a max, and then outputs a random number between them. Cool. And then I also have a front end, which I have in this hurry front end folder. So if I do npm start, it should start. And I just created this app using just like npx create react app. Cool. And then so this just uses this backend which is running. So if I say I want a minimum number between 1 and 1,000, it'll just generate a number. So pretty dandy app. I have here. So perhaps that's too big. Crashing the backend. Cool. Yeah. So pretty dandy app that I have here. And now we're going to deploy it. Um, so the first thing that we're going to do is deploy the uh, backend. Um, and then you'll see why we're deploying the backend first, because the front end does depend on where the backend is. So this is Heroku. So if you Google Heroku, you can create an account. To log in or sign up. You'd obviously have to sign up if you haven't used it before, but I'm just going to log in. Let's close out this tab. I'm going to use my brand email address. And so you guys might recall Heroku from the API assignments, where we had the student map and student info API. I've used it to deploy a bunch of different apps, including in Python and Java. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new app, and I'll just call this app Hurry Deploy Example 2022. Yeah, give it some you can give it whatever name you want. Although I'm not sure if you could rename it. So typically what I would do is I'd connect it to GitHub, but there's been some issues with Heroku and OAuth using GitHub recently, so we're going to use the command line interface, which is what CLI stands for. So this thing tells you how to install the command line interface. To be honest, I already had this installed on my computer from doing this earlier. So similarly to how I was not able to show you how to make an account in Heroku, I'm not going to be able to show you how to set up the command line interface. But I imagine it's just as simple as running these things, or just running this if you have a Windows computer, which I do have, or if you use Linux. Anyway, so I'm going to go back to this folder, and I'm going to create a new backend folder, which I'll call backend. I'll call it backend deploy 3 or something, because it's the third time I've deployed this app. I'm going to move it as a Git repository so it doesn't point to the existing repository. And cool. So yeah, this is what I will be deploying. So I'll just get rid of this backend copy, the one that we were running earlier, because we're going to kind of do this de novo. Cool. So I'm going a little out of order. So we have our Heroku app, and now we want to make sure that we're able to deploy it via GitHub, which the command line interface uses. So I'm going to go to github.com, and I'm going to create a new repository, and I'm just going to call it like deployment backend 3 or something like that. I'll just make it a public repository so that you guys all can have access to it. And then I'm just going to make this backend deploy 3 folder the actual Git repository. So I'm just going to open my terminal here. I'm going to run all these commands. Git init, git dot, git commit -m, adding backend, not too informative to be honest. gonna rename it from master, I think, to main. And then connect this repository to my local code, and then push the code. And then you guys obviously have your repository set up already, so you can, I think, use them out of the box. Although you might have to like download all your code and then like clone it into a new repository to do this. I'm not exactly sure. Cool. So if I refresh this, we see all the code is here that we want. And so that's fantastic. And so the next thing I'm going to do is, go back to Heroku, and I'm going to say Heroku login, just like these commands say right here. So Heroku login. Just click enter so that it brings up the web login. So cool, I'm logged in. And then here I can just click Control C or Control Command C or whatever it is in your computer that you use to exit out of running stuff. And then I want to run this command here, existing Git repository, and I will paste it here. And cool. So now this Git repo knows that it should be connected to this. Okay. So now we're going to take a look at there's 3 things in the code that you need in order for it to work with deployment. So the first thing is in your main.java. Remember how we choose a port, which we just default to 4567 in this class. So Heroku actually wants to choose the port for us. And so I have this method right here called get Heroku assigned port, and you can just copy it. It's just, you literally need this method. You need to like have some imports for like process builder, I suppose. I have a lot of extra imports up here. So process builder. Perhaps we don't need any imports. It's just a built-in Java. I do believe that that code is, yeah, here in Heroku stuff, which is just a Java thing. Yeah, so you just do this, and then it's not just that, you actually have to use the code. So down here, when I'm specifying the port in which I need to run the code, I'm saying run it in the get Heroku assigned port. One other thing that you'll need to take care of is running it with options. So Heroku, as far as I know, doesn't make it easy to add options. I'm sure you can when you run the code, but for at least as far as I know, I don't know how to do it. So we give you guys like code that says like, if we have like the flag, so it's like, back here, /run -- GUI in one of these terminals. You don't even need that. So now it's just whenever you run the code, it'll just run the Spark server is all it will do, instead of needing the extra arguments from the command line. So that's the first thing, is making sure that the port is set up and making sure that you don't need to run with the extra flags in order to make the code work. The next thing that we'll need is our pom.xml dependency. So if I go here, I just have a simple pom.xml, and I just found this Heroku dependency, and you can actually just Google it to find it, or Bing it, or whatever. Right, if you just Google it, you get this link, and then Heroku deploy, and then 3.04. So that's how I found it. Yeah, and this is just what Heroku uses, because I guess it just needs a dependency in order to be able to deploy. And so that's the second thing. And then the third thing is you need this proc file. So if you see here, you kind of keep this all the same, and then package.main is what I'll show you right now. So I have my proc file right here. I'm going to open it with Sublime, so I have all that stuff I had earlier in that text file. And then package.main is just saying, if we go back here, what is the name of the package, where, and then the class, where your public static void main string args is. So it's like, where is this? Because that's what your thing will run when it's on Heroku. So I'm just saying it's an edu brown CS student main, and then it'll know to look for public static void main string args, because it's Java, which you specify up here. Cool. So once you get those 3 things, you should be all set to deploy. I luckily already have them because I prepared for this video beforehand, because I had some trouble getting it set up. So if we go back to our command line, we'll see that we set our thing to be this. We connected our GitHub to Heroku. So now we have to do this. So we do git add dot, Boop. We'll just copy this one just for funsies. No harm, no foul. And then it says git push Heroku master. It's actually Heroku main because we renamed it from master to main. And so if we're lucky, it'll work and we will see our thing on the web. So I'll wait for it to do whatever it's doing. Let's go through the pom.xml. So you just like can keep all the other dependencies in your pom.xml. So if you're using like external dependencies for your project, for example, like literally downloading jars, I don't think that's going to work for Heroku. You should be adding dependencies via your pom.xml. So just like keep in mind of that because you might not because you won't actually have those like downloaded jars for your code to use when it's on Heroku because it's running on a different server. That's not your own. Yeah. So waiting for this. Cool. So it says it's on Heroku, so we can go here and say more view logs, and we can check the logs. And it says state changed from starting to up, so we can open it up. And cool, we're getting a 404 not found, which is great because I didn't set any route up for the first path. So now if I go here, right. So yeah, it's running. So if I make it like 10, right, 11, right, this is on the web, right? You can go to this URL right now and then generate your random numbers. Fabulous. So let's go back to the front end, which now we want to deploy via Netlify. So let's just take a look at the code for the front end first, because I think that's a little important. I didn't do a very good job. I put it all in app.js because it's not very complex code. But what you'll see is I have a variable called local, which I use right here for whenever making the post request. For making the URL for the post request. So if we are running on a local server, then we can use this. Otherwise, URL is an empty string, right? I never said it if it's not local. And then obviously everything here is just like what you saw to render the page. Let me change this to React formatting or JavaScript or JSX. Yeah, so I'm using JSX and not TypeScript, but I hope you guys can still follow. Cool. So now what I want to do is I want to say like make local equal to false and so that it will work when it's not running on local. So here's what I'll do. I will copy this URL from where we deployed it on. I'll say else URL equals that, and then obviously from here I can kind of take it from the previous line. And I want it to be false, right? I just want to try running it locally. False. And I'm just going to console.log my URL right here. So that we can see it works. Okay, cool. I'm going to refresh this page. We'll open up my inspector. And I'll say, 5, 10. That's not 10. All right, cool. So it is working with the remote server, right? Because we see it's using the remote server. And if we actually come here, we can see that. So is there a way to clear it? Okay. So just keep a track of this, right? So this is the most recent request we made. So I'm going to make another request, right? And see now there's a new request. And so if I make 5 more, right? It's 5 more requests down here. So you can actually use the logs to actually track, how your app is being used. Cool. And then whatever print statements you have in your Java code will actually be printed out via the logs here. So if you're getting an exception on Heroku and you're like, I don't know why, you can just print out why the exception might be occurring, and that will help you out. Cool. So now we have our front end, which is ready to deploy. So here I'm running npm start. I'm just going to stop that from running. And I'm going to go to netlify.com. So I already have a Netlify account. So again, I'm not going to be able to show you. So I'm just going to Netlify. I think it's with my, okay, I'm just like logged in with, I think my brand account. Or, okay, my Gmail account, which is fine. And so I have these random sites I've made in the past to test it out. So I want to add a new site. I'll just say deploy manually. I think is what I want to do. And so drag and drop, it's online. Okay. So all you have to do is in your npm app, just run npm run build, and then give it a second, let it run and build, I suppose, and then we will deploy it. Cool. So it is run and build, and so I take this build folder here, and that I've run and built. I'm going to drag it here. Deploying your site, so you can look at the logs here. Chill. Okay, cool. So it is up. So you can say 10 to 100. And yeah, you guys can go to this site yourself, right? And we can even see that it's using the remote server. Um, so I can even, I don't know if I'm running. Yeah, I'm not even running like the local host 4567. So like necessarily is using the remote server. Like I didn't give it any other option. We can set up a custom domain. JK. We can change the site name. That's what I wanted to do. So I'll do like super cool Hurry app or something like that. I don't know. And then now let's go to super cool Hurry app. .netlify.app. And then we'll see it. Okay, I put an F there, I think. Yes, fantastic. So if we do 5 to this number, we are generating random numbers. And there it is. That is how you deploy to Netlify, your backend, and Heroku, or Heroku for your backend and Netlify for your front end. There are more complex ways to deploy to Netlify. I don't know if you guys saw, but here, right, it's like you can deploy it. You can also deploy it via GitHub, which is like a little harder. Um, I'm sure you can also Google it. This is just very straightforward. Right? You have the reactor, you're an npm run build, and you just drag and drop it, and it's online. So yeah, so that is my deployment tutorial. I will be making available to you guys the um, backend repo. The frontend repo is like really simple. You guys, it's like this is all the code I have. Um, aside, like you guys can literally see it. It still has the React favicon. Um, but I think just the important thing is trying to use like a state variable or not a state, like just like any variable to decide whether your thing is local or not will help you with development. So you're not accidentally making like non-local requests when you want to make a local request and vice versa. Um, yeah, and this is just like sets them in, sets the max, and then these are just like state variables, and then we just make the post request whenever the button is clicked. So it's not very complex code. So I will not be sharing the front end code because I don't want to make a repo and everything like that. Cool. If you guys have any questions, you guys can ask me. But yeah, um, thanks for watching.